All right, I'm going to start. My name is Jessica Lalley, and I'm a Clemson graduate from many, many years ago. I have a daughter that graduated Clemson last May, Kate, and I'm really glad to be here because I like to help elevate and activate voices that need to be heard in my company, Voices to Connect in Atlanta. So we help develop people, we help executives be more forward facing in their jobs and book speakers. And so today we have two excellent executives that we're going to get to hear from their personal stories. You've already heard a lot if you were here earlier today from Jennifer. And so I am here to give you some introductions. So Jennifer graduated in 95 from Clemson as biological sciences. She has a 3-decade career in the life sciences across therapeutic development, contract services, and platform technology. And so today she's serving as the president and founding CEO of Como Biosciences, which is a next generation gene editing technology company. And so her journey is not only defined by professional success, but also by resilience. She is a 4-time cancer survivor who has persevered to achieve both her professional dreams and her personal dream of becoming a mom. Jennifer has 18-year-old boy twins that are just heading off to college to play lacrosse, right? And a 10-year-old girl. And then we have Dick Pace, who is also known as Dr. Dick Pace. Oh, and Jennifer's from the Maryland area, and Dick is from Greenville. So Dick was a 2010 Clemson graduate in chemical and biomolecular engineering, and he went on to get his PhD in bioengineering in 2014. He's the founding CEO of Paramer Scientific, which is a contract and development and manufacturing company. He has a wealth of experience in the life sciences ecosystem, especially in places like biotech strategy, manufacturing, and platform development. And he'll tell us about that too. His perspective will add a lot of value to today's conversation as we explore the role of services and platforms that are shaping the future of science and careers. Now, one situation that we've got to handle today is Dick is on the board of advisors of the Department of Chemistry at South Carolina. So somebody needs to scoop him up and get him over here. But Dick couldn't go the twin route, so he has triplets, 5-year-old triplets. So we're welcoming you guys to come, and thank you for being here to teach us some things. All right, so first of all, I want to talk about the ecosystem role. And I want to start with Jennifer. From your perspective, how do the outsourced services and technology platforms fit into the broader life sciences ecosystem? And then what role do they play in moving towards research beyond just impact?
Sure, thank you. And I'm happy to be here. I'm going to give a shout out to Sam Weiss, who was my intern for Como Biosciences last semester, brought to us and introduced to me through Dr. Hannon. So hi, Sam. Platforms and services, I believe, are the most critical infrastructure to the successful translation of technology and ideas from discovery, from academia, from the lab, to patients. They're critical because most companies don't have all of the bits and bobs and tools and platforms and technologies and capabilities to bring something to market. And so what do? They have an idea. You can get seed funding, you can start a company, but you have to outsource the things that you need. When we talk specifically about platform technologies and services, these are critical because the platform technologies are going to improve reproducibility, predictability. They're going to speed up costs, reduce timelines, all the things that are very important when you want to bring an asset to market. Services, for which both Dick and I have a lot of experience with, contract services specifically. And I remember I was explaining this thoroughly to Sam, which was like an eye-opening moment for her, I think. Contract services specifically enable folks not to have to build brick and mortar. You don't have to build a lab. You don't have to build a manufacturing facility, whether it's a therapeutic, whether it's a med device, whether it's a pair of sneakers. You can outsource all of that. You can have the idea and you find all of the right people to make it happen. So for me, services and then the technology platforms, whether it's a scientific technology platform, a manufacturing technology platform, a testing platform, platforms are the things that are going to make things reproducible, predictable, and scalable. I'll even mention AI for our AI folks in the background. Everything can be built, but it needs to be on a solid foundation. And I think in a minute, you're going to ask me a question about what the gaps are. So I don't want to go down there. But as you can imagine, the gaps are the lack of platforms, lack of reproducibility, and lack of scalability. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But in summary, services and platform technologies to me are the critical infrastructure in translating ideas to reality.
Okay, Dick, let's hear from you.
Yeah, sure. First, I want to acknowledge the students and just comment that you guys are doing the right thing. You guys are here at university to learn, and this event may be free to you guys, but it's taken a lot of effort and energy from Clemson and the people coming here. There's a lot of value to be earned from this, and you guys are doing the right thing by coming out and taking this time, because I'm sure you guys would rather be sleeping or do anything else. So kudos to you guys for coming here. Um, I would answer that question by analogy. Today, AI and silicon development is a hot topic. Everyone knows what Intel is, I suspect. Probably NVIDIA recently, maybe AMD. But every one of those companies, they don't manufacture their own chips anymore. Even Intel doesn't use the Intel fab. They're not using it for the next generation. What is it, the i9 or A9 form factor. They're all using a company called TSMC. Has anyone heard of TSMC? So some people, yeah, it says Taiwan Silicon Manufacturing Company. That is the root and the heart behind every single chip out there that's using semiconductors, that's for CPUs or NPUs or GPUs. It's that one company that is critical to it. The pharma industry does something very similar. And the reason is the cost of building these facilities is billions and billions. The cost to maintain it, the nuance for every little thing. I see AirGuard here. You guys, I suspect, are somehow in HVAC or so. There's HVAC regulations. It has to be a pre-filter of the MERV 13. If you use a MERV 14, a MERV 15, you get a 483 from the FDA. You've got to do a recall because you used the wrong filter in that. Every little nuanced detail into manufacturing pharmaceuticals can come back to get you. Another thought to that for innovation for these contract services. Another area that we all know is our cell phones. Mine's an Android. It's the same thing as everyone's iPhones. I would bet $1.3 billion of Chris's money that not a single Google employee touched this phone in manufacturing. And for an iPhone, not a single Apple employee touched that phone. The screen is made by Gorilla Glass. The camera, everyone brags about the cameras, all that CMOS technology and everything behind it, that's not an Apple invention. That's not a Google invention. That's some entrepreneur who invented something, sold it to some company, and then they licensed it to a manufacturer who then sells it to Apple. Every technology, the RAM, the CMOS, the NSAD, everything in here was not invented by Google or Apple, but yet it gets packaged up as a product, but it's all behind it are entrepreneurs and inventors inventing little services, little tidbits, little inventions. The pharma industry is the exact same way. You've got your adjuvants, you've got your modulators, you've got your excipients, you've got your active ingredients, you've got your labels, you've got your QR code tracking. Now there's crypto tracking for immutable records. Every new law the FDA makes, there's a half a dozen new technologies to try to solve that. A lot of those come from students. So that's my big picture of what the services, the service industry means to the pharma world. It's all that business to business that the average person never sees, but it's behind every product that comes to market.
Thank you, guys. That's a great start to the talk here. All right, so in the filling the gaps, both of you have experience in the service and platform industry, as we've discussed, but where are you seeing the biggest gaps that these companies are helping to fill right now? You want to go first, Jennifer?
So the biggest gaps that companies in the biotech industry are looking to fill right now is around technology. There's been a lot of building of capacity. It's no longer an issue of if there's capacity available for an antibody or a cell and gene therapy or a viral vector or a vaccine, even small molecule API, whether it's the drug substance, the drug itself, or the drug product. The capacity exists. The challenge is the technology. The gaps are that every innovator doesn't have access to the technologies that can level up their game. They don't have access to technologies such as our own at Como Biosciences. We own that IP. We have the chips, as I like to say, but we have the enzymes. We have the enzymes that solve the challenge of delivering large DNA payloads. We are the NVIDIA of biotech. Um, so we will then enable drug developers to have access to our fast enzymes that solve their problem. So the gaps are technology, and no one company is going to be able to tackle them all. If you enable folks to, we talked earlier today about knowing what the problem is and what your solution is. If you're able to do that, you have a business. If you're able to define a problem and come in with a solution, whether it be fast chips, fast enzymes, more soluble API for certain medications, something that crosses the blood-brain barrier that people struggle with, non-viral ways to gene edit, non-LNP, non-nuclease ways of doing gene editing and cargo delivery, you have a business. So find the problem, figure out what the platform is, and platform is a way that allows you to seamlessly do a lot of things with less effort. And so for me, the biggest gap is technology, and the solutions are the technology platforms.
Okay, Dick?
So the question is, what's the barriers today, or what are we looking at today?
Well, just where do you see the biggest gaps that these companies are helping to fill right now?
That's an interesting question. There's you can't talk about the pharma industry today without talking about the geopolitical events and the political situation. One of the big gaps we have is supply chain resiliency for a national defense front. So more than 90% of U.S. pharmaceuticals are made by hostile nations to the U.S. A lot of those, about 95% of the ones in China, have turned away an FDA auditor last year, closed the door, said you can't come in. If you did that in the US, you'd be shut down instantly. But they did it in China, and they have so much power, we can't shut them down. You shut them down, and suddenly there's no insulin in the US. To me, that's one of the biggest problems that needs to be solved is we have outsourced our technology and manufacturing to China. If you're an innovator, how do you solve that? The reason that happened is market forces. It's capitalism. It's cheaper to do it over there. You can ship a small bottle for $50 on an airplane from there to here. So why not manufacture it in China because your cost of shipping is so low? So American labor has been competing against Chinese labor. And that's been one of the that's what's killed the entire US manufacturing sector of this. There's almost none left. It used to be in Puerto Rico, and today there's I think 5, maybe 4 licensed companies in the entire US for API manufacturing. It's a very small number. And it's because of that. But geopolitical events have pushed that back. The war in Ukraine, the recent tariffs, all these discussions are changing things. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. It's hard to make business decisions today on what may or may not happen based on voting elections in the next bit, or who knows, the trade negotiations and everything. But I do know a solution that will be helpful no matter what, is if we can find a faster way and simpler ways to handle regulatory automation. If someone asks me to produce 50 grams of a product, I'll quote them, $2,000 or $3,000. If they say I want 50 grams and it's going to go in a clinical trial, all right, now you're talking 100 or 200,000. And then they say it's going to go full commercial. It's going to be a circulated drug substance. You're going to get a full DMF on it. Now you're talking a couple million. And with that, it's the exact same labor. It takes 3 batches, 3 manufacturing efforts to get a product through the FDA. That's it. But with that will be thousands and thousands of pages of regulatory support behind it for testing everything and all your records. If we can streamline that process and bring the labor down and use what the US is good at, automation, AI, things like that, to our benefit, that's what's going to tip the scales back without tariffs, right? So I think that's the gap we need today is platform technologies and streamlining GMP manufacturing would help bring back some of that to the US.
I mean, maybe Dick, you need to be getting involved as a government consultant in your free time. But that does lead us to innovation, to really thinking about how we can be innovative, but also reliable. So how do you guys balance being innovative, but then also being consistent and reliable? Jennifer?
I think the most important thing is making sure that you have data and that you demonstrate reproducibility. So that's what people need to see. I can do this, great. Can do it. How many times can you do it? Is it the exact same scale? Is the exact same titer? For me, are you integrating into the exact same location in the genome? Is it predictable? Do you know in advance what you're doing? And do you know in advance that you can do it again? And I think that when you say platform, that is the way that you reduce the fear that you're a one trick pony and that you can only do this one time, two times, three times. You have to be able to tackle the fear of reproducibility and reliability with data. And you have to demonstrate that you can do it again and again, correctly, predictably. And that will boost a lot of confidence. It'll boost confidence in your investors. It will boost confidence in your buyers, whether you're a service provider, whether you're developing a process, or whether you're developing a technology like we are. Reproducibility and predictability and scalability are critical.
I would answer that question by saying it depends on who you're talking to. Uh, if you're talking to the patent office, then this is groundbreaking, never been done before, first time in the world. And if you're talking to the FDA, it is just a slight modification to the last thing. There is completely safe. But I joke, but that's very true. It really does depend on who you're talking to. And there's grades of shade in between. You're talking to investors. You've got to read the room. You're talking to a big pharma, right? You want to say it's revolutionary but safe, and there's not going to be this big risk, right? You're talking to investors, and you want to say this is a potential unicorn. So the amount of innovation. I guess that's the spin of it, but I guess the real question is in the lab, how much innovation or not innovation? In the pharma world, I would err on the side of don't innovate. If there is a solution that's already on the market, then don't mess with it. All right. If you've got your one thing that you're modifying, you've got your one moiety you've added, don't go changing the salt form, don't go changing your excipients, keep the rest of that the same and make your one change. And keep that the innovative part. You get too complicated, you get too creative. I have a client today who's brilliant. A lot of us have a hard time understanding him, and he wants to tweak everything at all times. And at a certain point, it's like, hey, this is good enough, right? Or there'll be methods we use that's just industry standard. We know they're not great, but there are some methods out there that are just 100 years old, and the FDA likes them because they're good. But there are scientifically better methods today that the FDA just doesn't accept today. And so we'll always push back that, hey, during your R&D, use that. But when we're going to do our trials and our studies and our manufacturing and CMC, we're going to use the old try and true methods that they used 100 years ago before computers existed. So I think there is a balance to be played between being innovative, but not being too innovative or scary for regulatory.
I have someone that sometimes says execution over perfection. Something to think about. All right, we have a few minutes left. We want to talk about scaling and growth. So when we think about what are the biggest challenges in scaling a platform business, and then what opportunities are exciting you the most right now, Jennifer?
Sure. I think the biggest challenge in scaling a platform is adoption. So you're asking people to do something new. You're asking them to change the way they've been doing it before. You're asking them to adopt a new way of thinking potentially in their process, or a new way of genetic modification, for example. How you overcome that, again, is through data. You have to demonstrate that it's been done. You have to give them a reason to try. I think that in our experience, the way we've been able to do that is through MTAs, which is basically a trial, right? So we provide 3 months of access to our technology. Obviously they can't use it, they can't put it into the clinic, but they get their hands on it, and they're able to test drive it, if you will, and you guide them through that process. But when you're asking someone to try something new, you're asking someone to pay $500,000 for a research license. They need to try it first. And so we have used that as our model. We've had a lot of success so far with some of the world's largest companies saying yes to getting their hands on our technology. You have to demonstrate how your platform will help them overcome their bottlenecks. For example, the industry bottlenecks right now are large gene insertion, targeted large gene insertion to bring the next generation of precision therapies to market. Cell and gene, rapid cell line development for antibodies, diagnostic antibodies, pandemic response. You have to be able to do things faster, but they still need to be reliable and reproducible. So in order to get people comfortable with that, you let them try it. So for me, I think that getting folks comfortable with your story and your data and then getting their hands on it is a logical next step. And that goes for anything, whether you're marketing a new paratype of tennis shoes, like Hoka, for example, on clouds. They definitely had people go try the shoes on a run before they asked people to buy them from them. So I think that that's one strategy that's really helpful. Obviously, strategically partnering with someone to co-develop is also very sensible. When you have an LMP technology, for example, we were talking about this at lunch, or you have another non-viral delivery, which I would like to talk to someone in the back about, and you think that their technology plus your technology can create the next new thing, you should pursue that. And you can co-develop something, you co-own IP, you can create a JV, you create a new company. But like I said, not one company is going to probably be the answer to the next generation of therapeutics. In particular, it's going to be folks like me that are working on the precision genome engineering. It's going to be someone else who's working on non-viral delivery. It's going to be someone else who's working on antigen sequencing for pandemic response. It's going to be someone else working on downstream purification or chromatography. It's going to be everyone coming together as a consortia. So seek out those opportunities of where you can partner and co-develop and let people test your product so that they can gain confidence.
Well, and let me just say, this is a common theme today, and why everyone's here and at this Entrepreneur Hub is relationships and collaboration. So at the school, it's such a great opportunity to learn that in your classes, as you know, or here with this amazing community. Dick, maybe tell us about what your insight is on this, with the challenges and scaling.
Sure. I think there's, to answer that, two different ways. We're here to talk about services and here to talk about platforms. On the services front, I would question, for what purpose would you scale? If you're happy and you're living a good life and you're providing a good service, maybe more money just means more problems, right? If you're making enough money that you're able to do anything you want in life, then I would advise don't scale for the sake of scaling. Someone else's success, someone else's dream of a IPO and a mezzanine offer and all these things that people talk about, that doesn't have to be your story. Again, going back to the regulatory front, there's a code we have to do for particle counting, ISO 14644. If you become a 17025 certified facility, costs you $3,000 or $4,000. You invest in a particle counter, $6,000. You can go around and particle count clean rooms, charge $800, $900. You take 2 or 3 hours to do that, and you earn a couple $100, $900 every time you do it. From my front, I'm not going to invest in buying that equipment. I'd much rather hire somebody. Well, that person I hire is an entrepreneur. There's the solo person who goes around and does that. That's Palmetto Heating or Balance and Air, I think, so they are. The same thing with NIST traceable weights. Those things expire every year. I only need to use it one time a year. Why would I go out and buy all my weights and train my staff? So there's another entrepreneur, Greenville Scales. Contract them. They come out and they balance our scales. So to me, if you're Greenville Scales and you've got a good thing going, I wouldn't scale necessarily. I had an investor approach me. They wanted to put 20 million in or something, some large number, and he was talking about we could spread this more and we could take what makes us special and replicate it. And I thought about it, and I said, at the end of the day, I'm get very involved. I'm kind of an owner operator. I have a team, about a dozen people or so, but the way I thought about it was, I'm kind of like a mechanic, and I've got a nice little mechanic shop that does great work that people come to, and I've got a core, system of customers. You want me to turn me into a Jiffy Lube? You know, I don't know if I want to run a Jiffy Lube franchise chain. Maybe that's not my vision. Maybe I just want to be a happy mechanic with my own little mechanic shop. So that's kind of my thing is don't measure your success with someone else. You don't have to scale. On the platform front, you do. If you've got a new technology, you need to get that out there to the world. The world needs to see it, right? And my advice to that is to outsource that, franchise that, license that, whatever technology phrase you want to use there, get it out there with licensing agreements. That you said MTA, material transfer agreements, I believe. That's the way I would scale, is scaling using agreements and partnerships.
It's good.
I just want to add one thing in respect to biotech and scaling therapeutics development and manufacturing so that all people, regardless of socioeconomic status, what country you live in, if you're diagnosed with cancer, you will have access to CAR T. Right now, it is not accessible to all. Whether it's ex vivo CAR T or in vivo CAR T, these are the future. Particularly recombinant vaccines. If there's a pandemic outbreak around the world, you need to have in-country manufacture, rapid antigen discovery, rapid antibody manufacturing. If you don't have this, people will die. So when we say scale and we talk about platforms, you need platforms that are modular, transportable, and can be set up around the world that enable rapid, predictable development and manufacture. And I think that when you talk about services and platforms, the platforms, whether it's technology platform or manufacturing platform, enable the scale. They enable the scale and development and manufacture of the thing, whether it's a phone, whether it's whether it's IT play, whether it's a therapeutic, whether it's sneakers. Again, I know we're here for biotech, but the point is, without platforms, you cannot scale. Period. And so just think about that as you endeavor into your, various industries. It could be a testing platform, manufacturing platform, technology platform. Think about what inspires you a lot and what the impact of your said platform could have on the manufacturability and scalability of the thing that you're helping support. And you don't need to be making the thing. You could out-license your platform technology to those who need to make the thing. And the more things that your platform can enable across modalities, the better. For example, I gave the Como Biosciences example. We can enable with our platform agriculture, cell and gene therapy, biologics, vaccines. You want to have a platform that investors will think is investable because your platform can be utilized by multiple types of different industries. So if you're interested in engineering and platform design, think about what modalities your platform can support, and it really should be more than one, ideally.
Yeah, we're about to wrap up because it's getting close to our time for the next part, which is networking and connecting. Speaking of networking, just everyone in here, take advantage of reaching out to all of the speakers on LinkedIn. One of the things I highly recommend is if you can write a personal note and remind them how you met them. And then I've got some resources if you want to reach out to me as well. Definitely that Chris Voss book, Never Split the Difference. I use it on an Uber driver. It's really fun. But I just want to thank you guys both, because what I take from this discussion is that platforms are not behind the scenes. And platforms are also not just in this, science world, but in general platforms. We talk about LinkedIn, we talk about how you're showing up as a student digitally, how you're showing up in real life. That's one of the things that I help people do, because whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you need to know how to show up. And so we're going to have platforms in this world and platforms out here, but we really appreciate you guys coming, especially from as far as Maryland. And then just really, I think for students, these career paths, they're important to be aware of, because they're great points into the life sciences with these incredible opportunities, and take advantage of also just getting to know one another, because a lot of times you'll see that people that go to school together end up connecting and recommending one another. So thank you guys.
Think about services and supportive businesses to a core industry. Maybe we brought it across, but I just wanted to sort of emphasize the fact that one of the themes today is that the health and the going forward and innovating and serving the patient population in the pharma biotech space, relies very heavily on the innovator, right? Startup companies, small enterprises. If we didn't have this incredible high quality neighboring, if you will, service providers like what Dick and what Jen are leading, there would be no small biotech. I'm a CEO of a private funded company. We don't have one lab in the company. We do everything through service providers, and they are our lifeblood. I mean, if my service provider that makes our API calls me and has a big problem and we can't get drug, guess what? I am in deep doo, or some other worse word, because I can't go back to my funders and go, oh, today's going to start that clinical study in January. I can't get drug until July of next year. I'm out of business. I mean, it's an incredible importance of quality. They're fantastic service providers. There are a lot of them out there, and they can either be your lifeline or if you run into trouble. And you can't have, two organizations doing the same thing. You just don't have that kind of capital. So it's an incredible part of the ecosystem. But anyway, yeah. So I hope everyone has a copy of the agenda. And I think without any exceptions, that everybody that participated today is available probably on LinkedIn. If they're not, then certainly, coming back to Kimberly or John or myself or Lindsay, happy to make introductions, but take advantage of that. And I think, first of all, a big thank you to everyone, panelists, students, alumni. I know some people here from the local business community. Thanks for coming out. It was awesome, always inspiring. And the rest of the afternoon is yours. If you want to network, there's space that you can sit wherever outside. There's spaces upstairs. There's an open area in the end. There are meeting rooms that are available upstairs if you want to go and chat. But thanks again for the second annual Life Science Symposium. Looking forward to next year.